Hello, this is Ed Howell, the Daily Mountain Eagle. Today we will be meeting Tommy Tuberville, who is running in the March 3rd Republican primary for the U.S. Senate, now being held by Democrat Doug Jones. He's in town for a Bama-Cary meeting and was recently in town for the chamber meeting in Summerton to talk with them. Qualifying for all the races is now running from now until November 8th at 5 p.m., by the way. The Arkansas native served as a head football coach at the University of Mississippi from 1995 to 1998 and at Auburn University from 1999 to 2008. He was later at Texas Tech University and until 2016, University of Cincinnati. In 2015, Tuberville was the president of the American Football Coaches Association. He's also been a color football analyst for ESPN. Coach, welcome to Jasper.
Thank you. I've moved around a little bit.
You've moved around just a little bit. Why are you running for the United States Senate?
Well, I'm worried for our country. I've had the ability of having a job for 40 years, going across this whole state many times, and of course all over the South, and traveled to the Middle East twice for two presidents. And I'm concerned. I'm concerned about the direction this country's headed in. I'm concerned about our leadership. I retired at a relatively early age, and a lot of people can't just say, listen, I want to go help. I want to go do something. Well, I can. I don't need a job. I want the job. I want to go in Washington, D.C. and be a voice for the people of Alabama and the people of this country. And I'm a Donald Trump fan. A vote for me is a vote for Donald Trump. I believe in what he's doing has got this country back on the right track. But there's a lot of things that can be addressed. One being education. That's what I've been in for 40 years, and we have got to get our education back on the right track. We've got some good teachers, we've got some good administrators, but we've lost our philosophy over the years. And I think that if we don't get it back on the right track, we're going to educate several generations in this country that really don't understand this country and how we got here and why we're at the place we're at now and where we're going to end up if we don't get it changed.
What do you say to those about the qualifications? Of course, as we said, it was coaching for all those years, but what would you say is your qualifications to run for the Senate?
Well, again, I've traveled, I've talked to people, I've recruited kids all over the country, all over the state. I've been in rich homes, poor homes, middle-class homes. I've had the opportunity to be in many businesses across this country and this state. I've dealt with huge drug problems. I've dealt with mental illness problems. I've done it all, and I really think that being a teacher and a coach, somebody that travels, that goes into all these homes, that really understands how the American people and the people in this state are living and what they need, and I think that gives me a huge leg up in terms of people that sit behind a desk for a living, like a lot of these politicians, people that don't travel in terms of going actually into the homes, into the businesses, into the schools, and see what's happening. I'm a true believer that the experience that I've had for 40 years gives me ability to make opinions and suggestions on how the people are living and what people need in this state and this country.
You know what the number one issue in the country is right now, and it falls to the Senate probably pretty soon. Should the president have asked the Ukrainians to investigate Joe Biden, and what is your take on the impeachment process?
Well, there's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts that's going on with that. I've been trying to keep up with it, but it's so hard because everybody's got a different opinion of what was in the document that President Trump released. What I saw and released, they have no grounds for any kind of impeachment. I don't understand what they're talking about. I mean, the guy's doing his job, and to me, that's what he has to do. Has to do his job, but the problem we're having right now is we've got so much of a difference of opinion in so many people in Washington, D.C. Nobody's going to agree with anything. But we voted for President Trump. He's a duly elected president, and ever since he's been in office, they've gone after him for collusion and obstruction and racism and what we're talking about now, the Ukrainian phone call. And it seems like every time we turn around there's something else, but nobody in Congress is trying to do anything for the American people. All they're trying to do is just get in the way of a guy to run the country that we duly elected. So, it just disappoints me. And we got grown people in Washington, D.C. that all they're just trying to do is get in the way and run the clock out on President Trump. They run 3 years out, but he's gotten a lot done. Just get out of his way and let him finish his term. See if he's going to get reelected, which we hope he does. I do. And if he gets reelected, I think he can make a lot of headway, because sooner or later they're going to run out of things to accuse him of doing.
What has impressed you the most about the president? And as a second part, if you could, what would you convince him, if you were in the room with him, what would you convince him to change?
I don't think I'd change anything. We including me, voted for him because we all thought we needed somebody in Washington, D.C. that would step to the plate and speak for the American people and not for the swamp, the people up there that consistently just run things like they want to run it, and not for people like the people here in Alabama want it to be run. And he was overwhelmingly voted for in most states to go up and make a difference. He's an outsider. He's not a politician. He's up there voting for the American people. What a change that is. I mean, we've had presidents of the past that go up there and just kind of follow along in the same old tracks that we've always followed in. Is what goes on in D.C. stays in D.C. And President Trump is a guy that's gone out and spoke for the American people, the people that put him in office. Now, there's a lot of people that don't like him because he has a different agenda than what they have. But that's fine. That's what this country's about.
So you think that the Congress should be more like that in terms of being more upfront and not conforming to old patterns?
Well, yeah, go speak for the people that put you in there. Now, of course, if you're voted for as a Democrat, I mean, you're going to speak your piece, and that's fine. If you're voted as a Republican, go speak your piece. President Trump was elected, and as President of the United States, let him run the country. I mean, that's all I'm saying. The reason I'm running is I'm not a politician. I'm a citizen legislator. We have so many people up there that are professional politicians, career politicians, the swamp. They go up there and they just need a job and they want to keep a job. I want to go up, be elected, and serve the people of the state of Alabama and vote how they want and should be voted for. So I don't need the money. I'm not going to take the money. I'm going to give the money that I make back to the veterans of Alabama. I'm glad I can do that. And I really think this should be a volunteer job. I think everybody that's elected in Congress should have their expenses paid for, go up there and do your job, and then go back home and get you a job so you can really understand how the people of America are living.
Right. By which veterans organization? Or?
Yeah, I'll give it to some veteran organization here in the state.
How do we resolve immigration reform?
Well, first of all, we got to put up a wall. I've been to the wall over a dozen times. I worked in Texas. I got buddies that work on the border. It's out of control. And we've got 20 to 30 million illegal aliens here. There's no path for citizenship for them. They got to get in line like everybody else does when they come here for citizenship. So, I mean, to me, there's no talking about any kind of reform. We get to wall it because we don't know who's here. I mean, we got a lot of people here that are not here for jobs, that are not here to make their family better. They're here to try to change this country and try to take it in a different direction. And until we get that wall up, we're going to have people continue to come here like that. And it's a shame that we can't stand up for the safety of this country. I mean, that's the sole purpose of what I understand of what Congress is about, is protect the citizens of this country, and we're not doing that.
What was your take about the children being separated and being kept in detention facilities? That became controversial for a while.
Yeah, but it wasn't very controversial when President Obama did it. He did as many than President Trump. Listen, this is a country that loves people. Okay, we love everybody, and we've taken care of millions of people, not just coming across the border, but all over this world. I mean, we give the American taxpayers money to help rebuild cities after wars. We've given money all over this country and all over this world to help other people, and we want to help people. But we are responsible, to me, the people that govern for this country are responsible for protecting the people in this country. So, hey, we need a wall so we don't have any of that separation. And President Trump's trying to do that, and unfortunately he's not getting very little help out of our Congress. He's having to go through other funds to try to get it built. I mean, that wall should have been built years ago. It was passed under President Obama that, hey, money was appropriated to build the wall. They never did anything.
Some polls show that Americans want a middle ground on health care, not necessarily Medicare for all, in other words. What is your solution for Medicare and for the affordability of health care?
I've traveled the state now for 6 months. Biggest question I get is, Coach, we're losing our health care. We really don't have any. I mean, Obamacare was basically something that tried to send us in the way of one-payer system through the government. If you want to see government health care, all you got to do is look at the VA. The VA is government-controlled health care, and it's absolutely atrocious. We have our veterans that come back and from wars, they lose legs, they lose arms, they lose eyesight, they're burnt, or they have mental problems and they come back here and it takes them 6 months to get an appointment. That's wrong. That is absolutely wrong. So our healthcare system needs to be worked on in all directions. Everybody says, well, what's the answer? We don't have the answer until we go back to opening up, being a capitalistic healthcare system where we have more than one insurance company. If we don't do that, if we don't get competition in the insurance, our healthcare is going to continue to rise. We're going to have doctors and nurses getting out because they don't make the money that it takes to be a nurse or a doctor after training for so many years. We've got huge problems in the healthcare system. We've lost 10, 12 or 14, I can't remember the exact number, of hospitals in this state this year. They've closed down in the rural areas because we don't have internet. They don't have internet. You can't run a hospital without internet. But we've got to get a system in the rural areas where we can help people with health care, emergency health care. Is it a hospital? I don't know. We've got to find a way to fund it. And, but we've got to have better health care. Our health care is the best in the world, but we've really downgraded after we passed Obamacare because we've run nurses out, we've run doctors out, and we're closing hospitals down because they can't get enough pay from insurance companies to keep their hospitals open.
We appear no closer in this country to having a solution as far as addressing the mass shootings that we're seeing all across. Is there anything that we can do to pass anything that would in this political atmosphere to address that problem?
Well, the biggest thing we need to do is we need to have a mental health plan. We have no mental health plan in this country. We've dropped it. Over the years, we've had a mental health plan. But now the plan for this country for mental health is put them in jail, and after putting them in jail for a while, we turn them out on the streets. And it all goes back to education. And we've got to be able to help people that have mental health problems. And that's one area that we've got to do it through the government. And we're having more and more drug problems. That's putting more mental health people on the streets. We've had people addicted. Last year that we lost 70,000 people in this country for dying from overdoses. And we talk about guns killing people. I mean, we're killing people and not even talking about it anymore because of drugs. I can remember growing up, there was a huge talk, on television, advertisements, education in the schools about drug problems. You don't even see that much anymore. I mean, it's kind of given and accepted in this country, and it's wrong. We're having more and more people every day killed because of drugs.
And we've got a major problem in this area with that as well.
A major problem. In all areas in this state and in the South in this country, it's getting worse and worse. And we've got to start looking into it. And again, we go back to what we talked about earlier, borders. 80% of the drugs come across the border in this country. Okay? That's another reason we need a wall up. And if we don't address that, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. We're not going to be able to control it. And what we're turning into in this country is a lawless country. I've seen it through education. I've seen it in the colleges. I've seen it in the high schools. And it's it's out of control, and we're accepting that. It's not that we're accepting the gun problem. There's no gun problem at all. I mean, it's not a gun problem. It's a people problem. There's been guns here forever, and I'm not for any form or fashion of gun control. They're not taking my guns, because what happens is they're not looking to take guns because you want to hunt and do some casual shooting or target practice. They want to take your guns away so they can control you. And in this country, we cannot do that. The Second Amendment says we're allowed to bear arms. And of course, you've got two different groups that want to address that, but I am totally against doing away with the Second Amendment.
This is a big mining area. I'm sure you've heard about Walker County being miners. Yeah. In light of the struggle of miners today and the growing concern by many for climate change, which is affecting the industry, what are your thoughts about the mining industry to preserve it?
Well, I'll give you my first thought on climate change. There's one person that changes this climate in this country, and that's God. Okay, you hear these people talk about the emissions and all those things. Sure, we've got cars driving around, we've got gasoline burning, we've got coal burning, but we are a very small part of that. Look at China. I mean, what do we have? Maybe 40 or 50 coal-fired plants in this country. They've got 2,000 and building more. I mean, coal's not the problem, or mining's not the problem. Gas emissions aren't the problem. We've done about as much as anybody for gas emissions. We don't have climate change here. You have a little bit of change. It might change a little bit over the years. I hear about the oceans rising.
Polar caps melting and all that. You know, we hear that a lot.
But they melted for years. I mean, they had changed. I mean, they've proven they've been melting for years. I mean, because you do have a little bit of change of weather, but somebody needs to prove to me that it's because we're burning coal, or we've got cars driving around out on the streets. And even the so-called experts that talk about climate change that I've heard and listened to and through podcasts like this and whatever, very small amount of change. It won't change enough in the next 400 years to affect anybody. But it's a talking point on the left that gives them an opportunity to scream and yell that this country's not going to last but 12 more years. I've heard that ever since I was knee-high to a grasshopper growing up, that this world's not going to last if we keep doing this or that. It just, everybody wants to scream wolf, and you know, and all it is again, it's just propaganda, you know, to get a talking point for the left.
We were talking about the drug problem earlier. Of course, with the opioids are easing somewhat, and what should be the next level of work? Obviously, you mentioned about drug trafficking from Mexico and such, but what's the next level of work to get people off drugs and to prevent abuses by drug companies and traffickers?
It all goes back to education. Obviously, the opioid system that we have now, you've got companies that are making drugs and they're advertising it like, you know, that it's not a problem. They're paying the price. They're paying a price for billions of dollars because they're getting sued for it. I think that can be controlled, but it's got to be through education, and that's got to be through government too, of restricting what can be sold, across the counter from doctors. A lot of times we have doctors over prescribing drugs. I saw that being a coach. I saw kids, and we had kids that I coached ended up in the last 10 years got hooked on opioids simply because they were painkillers. And that's, again, it all goes back to education. It goes back to educating people on what you do, what you can't do, what drugs you're taking. It's really out of control, but it's not just opioids now. It's heroin, meth, cocaine. All those things are coming across the border, but opioids are a big problem, and that's got to be addressed, and of course, by our drug companies and the government regulating that.
The president's tariffs have upset the markets somewhat, and although they've recovered sometimes, and caused problems for farmers and industry. Although the economy in general, again, is holding up. China is also known to have had some abuses. Has Trump President Trump been successful in this area to put in putting a check on some countries, or do tariffs pose a recessionary threat, you think?
No, I think President Trump is doing exactly what he needs to do. All the other presidents have kicked the can down the road, and they put us in a huge bind. Our farmers know that. Our farmers know that President Trump's out there fighting for them every day. They want a better price for what they grow and they harvest, and they want a more consistent price. I've been all over this state talking to the people, the farmers, through the Alpha representatives, and they're behind President Trump. They understand what he's trying to do. They understand that he's out there fighting for them, and they're behind him 100%.
There has been talk of, I've heard partisan tribalism is what it's been called in the climate today. The idea that it doesn't matter what you read or hear, that you're going to take a side quickly and stick to it. And some senators say they don't debate as much, that bills are not being allowed on the floor. Leadership has too much control. No one knows how the president will react, et cetera and so forth. Has Congress become dysfunctional in terms of working together, you think?
Over the years, I've seen, as well as you, different, it's kind of like different football teams, okay? You're going to have different people on football teams. They're going to react differently. Years ago, you had a lot more compromise, more people talking, visiting about it, working things out, coming more to the middle and getting things done. I think that's good. I think that's what's going to make me a candidate of choice, because I'm used to working with people. I'm used to getting people to communicate. I'm used to getting people to trust people. You know, the whole thing about being a football coach is listening as much as talking, understanding problems, and working those problems out. And at the end of the day, winning. And I think that's one thing that I can do when I go to Washington, is try to convince people, hey, we might not all agree, but we can talk. We can at least visit. Right now, we've got a stalemate in Congress. We have absolute stalemate. We have gotten nothing done since this last Congress took over back in January. We've got the Democrats and Republicans in the House. I think I saw the other day that, by this time, they've had 400 or 500 bills that they've talked about and discussed. This year, they've talked about 40. But they spent all their time going after the president. And then, of course, when nothing happens there, obviously nothing gets to the Senate, and they can't do anything. But the one thing that they have done on the Senate side is they've confirmed judges. And I think that's one of the most important things that the Senate does, is they confirm judges all across the country, federal judges, and get them in place. And I think the last count I heard was somewhere over 200 that they were able to. President Trump sent them to the Senate. They discussed them, and they were confirmed. And it's just unfortunate. That's the only thing that we've really been able to get done in the last, 10 months.
You mentioned football. I guess there has to be a couple of football-themed questions, or I'd be whipped. But I want to ask you how we do with one team or another. I want to ask you about football injuries. That's become a national issue in terms of the future of our players, in terms of their health. What's your take on that?
It's changed. The kids have gotten bigger, faster, stronger. As I heard you introduce me earlier, you said I was the president of the American Football Association. What that is, it's kind of like the group of coaches all across the country, high school, college, and pro. And it's a club and organization that gets together that discusses and talks about the future of our sport. And I was on the board of trustees, which there's 16 members for Grant Taft over the years, and then my last year I was the president. Well, I just happened to be president when all this concussion stuff struck. Now, we've always had concussions. One thing about football, it is a very physical sport. We know that. You wear a helmet, and there's a lot of collisions. These kids are bigger, faster, stronger, and there's bigger collisions. And so you're going to have injuries. No matter what you do, you're going to have injuries. But did you know in soccer that there's more injuries than there are in football? They don't wear uniforms, but they still have the collisions. but we want to make it as safe as possible. And that's what we've tried to do over the last 15 years. The helmet's gotten so much better. You're not ever going to stop concussions 100%. The one way that you stop and correct and slow down the injuries is by teaching kids how to play the sport, how to properly block, how to properly tackle, keep the head out of all contact as much as possible. And if you do that, you got a chance. But the problem is the NCAA and the high school athletic programs are cutting back on the amount of time that kids can spend out on the field. And when you do that, you cut back on the technique and fundamental time that coaches are able to use in teaching those proper techniques. A lot of states don't have spring training. And that's really where you teach all that. You get into this time of year, it's mostly game planning. In the spring, very few high schools have the opportunity to teach these young kids how to properly play the sport. And I think that's what we really need to address more, is quit cutting back on the time, put more time out there where coaches can teach these kids how to properly block and tackle.
I may embarrass myself with this question, but my thinking is, I believe California passed a law, was it not, for paying players and I think that is something that's coming across the nation in some schools. What's your take on that?
Well, it's not paying players. Players already get paid, and I'm going to tell you the reason. Over the years, and I do agree with this to some degree, because I was in it 40 years, that players need to get a little bit more money because they don't have a chance to get a part-time job. They have a full-time job playing college sports. And so a few years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, we passed a rule of cost of attendance. So basically now what happens is, if you're on scholarship, you get your room, board, books, tuition, everything's paid for. You don't have to pay for anything other than what you wear. And most of the time they're going to wear the clothing that you get from Nike or Under Armour. So, but after that now, every player gets $500 to $1,000 a month, cash, non-taxable, put in their pocket. We actually, in the last 6-7 years that I was coaching, I'd bring in financial guys to help a lot of these kids. They wanted to invest their money. So when they got out, you can think, if they get $1,000 a month, they can end up with a lot of money in the bank because they don't have any bills. Unfortunately, a lot of them use it in other areas, earrings, watches, spend it on their girlfriends and all that, which is fine. They get to do it what they want to do it. So that's the cost of attendance. So they do get paid. Now, what you're talking about is California said that, well, these kids need to make money off their name. If their name is Peyton Manning, they need to be able to sell their jersey on the streets or in bookstores or whatever, and they need to get paid for that. Well, you can't do that. This is amateur sports. Now, if they want to be professionals, go ahead and go to the pros, skip college, and go straight to the pros. But very few of them can do that. So, no, I'm not for that at all. And if you got 4 or 5 kids in the country that can make money off their name, and then the rest of the 10,000 of them can't, it's not quite fair.
That's what I get for ad-libbing questions.
Yeah, but you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
We do not need to tear amateur sports down because of money, and that's exactly. Now, I'm for giving kids money to take care of themselves because they cannot get a full-time job or even a part-time job when they're playing college. But to be able to use their name, just a handful of them, that doesn't fly with me.
We have time for one more question, and it's open season. What have we not talked about today that you would like to talk about and get across to the public?
Oh, I think, as I said earlier, I think our country's in trouble. We have a problem with identifying where this country, where a majority of the people want this country to go. We were built on capitalism, not socialism. Donald Trump, to me, is the only guy right now, and we even have some Republicans that's not standing in the way of socialism. I mean, we've got people that just absolutely want to transform this country, and that's not what this country is built on. My dad died on active duty at age 53 in the military, and he fought in World War II, 5 Bronze Stars and a Purple Heart at age 18. He fought for the flag and the national anthem and In God We Trust and all that. And so I'm just a true believer that we've got to fight for the fundamentals of this country. And the fundamentals of this country to me are God, family, and education. And if we don't get those back on track, and we've lost them to some degree, and you asked me earlier, why do you think you're qualified for this? Because I've seen we've taken God out of the schools, and we've replaced the schools with metal detectors. How's that work for us? Not very good. Family, we divided the family. We said, we've told a lot of the dads, just go ahead, we'll take care of your family. The government will give them a check. How's that done for us? Not very good. And in education, we have absolutely gone in the wrong direction of teaching our kids that, hey, don't worry, we'll take care of you. Don't have to worry about working. We'll take care of you. We'll give you health insurance. We'll give you a phone. We're going to pay your bills and all that. We want you to vote for socialism. And it don't work. All we got to do is look at Venezuela. I'll tell you what we got to do. All we got to do now is look at California. California is a broke state because they have turned that into a socialist state, and they are completely out of control. They won't even let the power company go into the trees and the woods and put their power lines underground because they will disturb the landscape. And now they're on fire. The whole state's burning because they will not listen to the people. And so I'm just afraid right now we got so many people that are just confused of what direction to go in. But I'm telling you, if we'll just follow God, family, and education, we'll get this country on the right track again.
Tommy Tuberville, I know you came back a second time. You went and was on our podcast
That's
earlier.
Pretty good, isn't it?
It was very good. And you came back for this interview, and we appreciate your time that you spent with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good luck. And that's our show for today. Thank you very much for joining us.